Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's joining in. We are live for yet another group chat by Mail Modo, and today we're talking about how to craft email copy to improve your conversions. We have with us Summer OS, the founder of Emails Done Right. Thank you for so much for joining us today, Summer, and taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Lovely. So let's just dive right in. Okay. Okay, great. So, as we just spoke, we're going into this topic on email copy, and this is going to be a purely an email copy masterclass. And we're so happy to have Summer with us today. But before I go in and talk about the topic and a little bit about Summer, I just need to go back and mention of how this session is brought to you as part of the email performance challenge. So some of you might be familiar with this. We recently launched the 21-day email performance challenge. Um, it's a 21-day journey where you get actionable emails about ways to improve your email campaign performance over a span of 21 days, covering aspects of deliverability, authentication, copy, design, and all the little things that go into making your email campaign a success. And we're very glad that the first cohort of this challenge just completed as of yesterday, and we have some really amazing results as part of that. Um, so, if any of you were part of the first cohort, woohoo, congratulations to you. We had around 390 participants, of which, given that this was delivered via email, we put together some quick stats. 39% of the emails were opened. We had a 9% click rate. And along with the tasks, we had a lot of engagement to our AMP widgets, which is why you see also a submission rate there, wherein we were asking participants to share their feedback, to also share if they've completed the task or not, questions, etc. So overall, we've had around 111 tasks completed, and at least 34 people have completed at least one task. So that's like pretty awesome. Along with that, I have a few special names of those who completed, a lot of tasks in the challenge. If you're part of this session today, just say a hi in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. So, Mark has completed 21 tasks, so, which is the entire challenge. Congrats, Mark. I
That's
hope
amazing.
yeah, you go ahead and convert all your email campaigns. So that's that. Molly, McBooth, and Sandra did 11, and Donna and Noah have done 6. And of course, we have so many others who are currently taking up the challenge as well. So that is on a little bit on the email performance challenge. Heading into the session today, we have Samar with us who's going to be talking about pretty important things when it comes to email copy, which most people don't get to strategically think and create. One of them is how do you get more revenue from email copy along with conversions. Second is how do you develop that unique brand voice, the brand tone, and build that relationship with your audience. And of course, third being how do you then minimize churn and increase customer retention as part of all your efforts. So we'll dive right in. Summer, who's joining us today, is an email strategist. She's also the founder of Emails Done Right, a newsletter where she picks email fights every Wednesday. She's also the creator of e-commerce email bootcamp and SaaS email bootcamp, extensively working with multiple SaaS and e-commerce brands, some of whom are prominent brands like HubSpot, Drip, Copy Hackers, Podcast App, etc. She's been able to help all of them increase conversions, reduce churns, and fix all those money leaking gaps in emails. She's also known for challenging the status quo of the email marketing world and advising startups on how to onboard and retain better. So we're really, really happy to have you again with us, Summer, and I'll pass it on to you to take it over from here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me once again, Asma. All right, let me share my screen, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, it looks like you guys can see this. All
Yep,
right,
Summer.
perfect. Okay, that's great. All right, welcome to How to Craft Your Email Copy to Improve Conversions. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I am in Pakistan and it's the summers, which means we sometimes lose power. And it takes about 5 minutes for my backup generator and router to kick in. So if I disappear, just hang around, I will be back. All right, so today our workshop is focusing exclusively on writing email copy. And I don't know if what I'm teaching you is anything new, but it will definitely make you approach emails in a new way and think about them in a new way whenever you are writing your next email. So email marketing revenue, we've heard it so many times, right? Okay, I will get to the stat later, but I keep hearing this phrase, email is dead, right? As recently as last month, a cousin was advising me to get out of email. I mean, he meant well and everything, but email isn't dead, right? But my cousin isn't an anomaly. So some say it's all about SMS now. Others say no one reads emails now. The thing is, email's been dying since the 90s. And as this stat shows, there's still money to be made through email marketing. So according to Statista, email marketing revenue is estimated to reach almost $11 billion by the end of 2023. But to get your share of this $11 billion pie, you have got to send emails that people actually want to open and read and click. So email may not be dying just yet, but people's attention spans definitely are. So if you've been sending emails that are completely salesy, are discount focused, or are all about you and not your customers, email is dead for you. Because despite what the world's most famous email stat says, your email subscriber isn't a slot machine that will give you anywhere between $36 to $44 every time you put $1 in it. To get that $44 return on investment, you have got to do a lot more than hit send. You need to create emails that convert, and to do that, you need to keep a few things in mind before you write a single word of email copy. The first one being that email is a conversational tool before it's a marketing tool. Now, most people, except marketers like you and I, use email to communicate, right? And a conversation is a two-way street. That means when you send an email to somebody, you are starting a conversation. And if you're starting a conversation with, hey, buy this, then you're no better than a pushy door-to-door salesman that we all hate. So treat your emails like a conversation, because you may have a list of 10,000 people or more, but the person reading your email on the other side of the screen is just one. And they are asking themselves, what's in it for me? Why should I even open this email? Why should I click through? Why should I do what this person or company is asking me to do? So instead of marketing to them, talk to them. The second thing is that your emails need to be about your subscriber, right? Your email subscriber comes first, not you. And that means that you need to focus on email experience. Now, the more I work in this industry, the more I realize that email experience is often equated with retail experience, right? But I approach emails from the hospitality industry perspective. And I'm always thinking about how are your emails or my emails making the subscriber feel? Do they feel seen, heard, and well taken care of? Or do their emails or your emails make them feel ignored? Right? Do they feel like, oh, this person's just selling to me? Creating a good email experience honestly isn't hard. You just have to put your subscriber first and think about things from their perspective. And the number one question you should be asking yourself when you are thinking about what email to send or how to write an email is, why should they care? What's in it for them? Because thinking about your subscriber is the first step in creating great emails. A great email that you create can turn your subscribers into buyers, your existing customers into loyal, raving fans, and it can get your customers to come back to you again and again and again until they are what an e-commerce or DTC brand would term a VIP customer, right? So whenever you're creating an email, ask yourself, how will the customer feel when they receive this email? Where will they be in their buyer journey or subscriber's journey when they receive this email? Because if a person hasn't bought from you even once, or I think this is a better example. Let's say if a person has just bought from you at full price and the very next day you are sending them an email that's giving them a 20% discount, they're going to be super pissed off, right? And it's even if they don't contact customer service and they don't, mention this anywhere, it will leave a bad taste in their mouth and they might not come back to you again. So, and finally, there's another thing that you should be thinking about when you're sending out emails. What emotions do we want them to feel after our email? If your email is all about you, if your email is all about discounts and not about the customer, then they're going to feel like, oh, this person's just using me, or this company's just selling to me. They don't care about me. And finally, one of the things you also need to be considering when you are thinking about or working on sending an email is, what action do we want them to take? Because every email needs to have an overarching conversion that we're after, right? Even if it's just to build a relationship or familiarize our brand with the subscriber, that's a goal. And so just having that front and center when you're writing an email is super important. All right, the third thing is sending the right email to the right person at the right time. And I think I've said this so many times, but if you are watching a workshop or masterclass by me for the first time, please write this down on a Post-it note somewhere and stick it up. The right email could be a sales email or a content email or even a customer support email, right? If it's reaching your subscriber or user or customer just when they need it, then that's the right email, right? Your email also needs to go out to the right person. In the example I just used, of somebody buying at full price and then getting a 20% discount email, that second email, which was a 20% discount, obviously went to the wrong person, right? And then sending those emails at the right time. Now, the easiest way to figure this out is, are they a customer or a subscriber? Are they a free trialer? Have they been engaging with your emails? All of these things are something that you need to consider when you are working on an email and deciding who this email is going to go out to. The right time is determined often by the action or inaction of your subscriber, right? So again, if they were browsing on your website, they added a few things to their cart and then they left, sending them an abandoned cart email is the right time. Similarly, if they just bought something, then you need to send them, then you know that you need to send them a post-purchase email, right? So make sure that whenever you are creating emails, you are asking yourself, who needs this email, to read this email, who this email needs to go out to, and is it the right time to send it to them? All right, the email copywriting rule of one. Now, if you only focused on one rule when it comes to email copywriting, I promise you your conversion rates will go up, right? The rule of one is one of the most ignored email copywriting techniques or tactics out there? Probably because following this rule is one of the hardest things to do in the email marketing world, because it goes against all of the common practices out there that brands and companies are doing when sending out their emails. So what is this rule of one? Does anybody have any idea? I'm going to take a quick break and look at the chat and see if anyone knows what the rule of one is. All right, Asma, if somebody sends us the answer in the chat before I'm done with my rule, sharing my rule of one. Oh, Yamini is saying, focus on getting one thing across. Yes, absolutely, Yamini. There are 3 parts to this, but yes, once you get, oh my God, you guys already know this stuff. Harshit, yes, also yes. Oh yes, you do. You guys know all this stuff. Okay, so the rule of one is write to one person, because just as I said, you might have a list of 10,000, 100,000 people, but the person reading your email is going to be one, right? So write to one person, make sure that your copy is speaking to that one person, right? No, hey guys, or talking about a large group of people, or just like a third person. No, make sure that your email copy is being written to one person and it's in the first person. So yes, write to one person, share one idea per email. How many emails have we seen in our inbox that are telling us to buy something, then also telling us to follow them on social media, and then also asking us to share our images with them and tag them, right? And so most companies are often asking us to do 2 to 3 to 4 things in an email. And that's just the different. And here's the thing about this. I don't know why it's so prevalent in the industry, but when this happens, what is really happening when the subscriber reads that email is, with every new ask that you're making in an email, your conversions are being diluted. So yes, your buy now call to action might be your main action, but then they scroll down and they see the follow us on social media thing, and they'll click through and you've lost the subscriber, right? They're now no longer interested in browsing your products or buying from you. They're more interested in going through your social media feed and then deciding whether they want to follow you or not. And typically, a person reading your email is only primed to take one action. After that, they will lose interest. So if somebody clicked through to your social media links and they followed you, to them, they've taken an action. Chapter closed. They will not go back to that email. All right. The third thing that involves the rule of one is having one type of call to action. And what I mean when I say that is, I just give you an example of multiple types of call to actions in an email, right? But if you're sending out an email, there can be more than one call to action. So there's a common misconception when I say one type of call to action or have one call to action. People think, oh, I just need to include one button. That's not true. What I mean when I say you need to have one type of call to action is that if you are asking people to buy from you, make sure that all your CTA buttons are leading them to that action, right? Don't include social media links. Don't ask them to share photos. Don't ask them to do anything like that. Don't even ask them to reply to your email. Just give them what they want, right? So if you are an apparel brand and you can send out an email that's with like CTA call to actions that say shop shirts, shop shoes, shop jewelry, but it's all asking them to buy, right? And this is a tip that comes into email experience, but a lot of times copywriters do not have control over this. But when you are saying shop shirt or shop shoes, make sure that the link is going to those product pages. That is one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to emails I receive, which is when I click through and it's not what I was expecting to see. So yes, you guys were right on the money about that. The rule of one is write to one person, share one idea per email, and have one type of call to action. Now, if your emails are not following the rule of one, I know it's going to be tough, but my advice is stick to it. It will, if you become used to it, writing emails just becomes so much easier. I can't even tell you guys. Okay. how to get your emails opened. Because yes, you could write the best email in the world, but if nobody's opening it, then are they even worth being written? So before somebody can read your emails, they need to open your emails. And that's what you should be focusing on first. And there are three things you should be focused on when it comes to getting subscribers to open your emails. The first one is humanizing the from name, right? So the from name is the first step in creating that personal connection with your subscriber. When it comes to who your subscribers are receiving the email from, consistency is key. So decide who the emails are going to be from, and then stick to it, right? Consistency is also important. So if you are a company, instead of just saying emails from company, they could be, emails from a person at that company. So I'm going to say when I send emails from my newsletter, Emails Done Right, it's often from Summer at Emails Done Right. Or, there are, if you look at in your inbox, you'll find other examples. Like just today, I found examples of like Brian at Growth Tools or Deb at Zapier, Ash from Living Cozy. So what this does is it just creates that subconscious connection that the subscriber might not be aware of, but it's to them, it feels like they are receiving an email from a person, right? And when that name lands, when they see that name, whether it's Summer at Emails Done Right or Ash from Living Cozy, in their inbox, they're going to know who that email is from. The second thing you should be focusing on is treating your subject line like a star attraction, right? So the from name has a supporting role, but the subject line is the star of the whole situation when it comes to getting your emails opened. And there are a bunch of things you can do when writing subject lines, but the first one and the most important one is clarity. Your subject lines need to be super, super clear and not clever. And I know as copywriters, we like to have fun and we want to write these witty, pun filled subject lines that we think are great, but people are time strapped, attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Always opt for clarity over cleverness. So there are a few things you could do when it comes to subject line writing subject lines is test out super short subject lines versus longer subject lines. Most subject lines, when you notice in your inbox, will be mid-length, right? So if you write a super short or a super long subject line, that tends to stand out. Emojis always work well, but stick to one or two emojis in an email subject line. If you overload it, yes, it'll stand out, but it'll also not be a good reading experience for somebody. And secondly, if you are using emojis, use them to emote. Don't use them to replace words. Most of us, unless your audience is younger than millennials, right? They can speak emojis, the language of emojis better than anybody else. So that might work. But in most cases, use emojis to emote. Okay. When you are
I
the final thing, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna jump in because there are a bunch of questions in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
I think are relevant. So Jyotika is asking if I do have to include multiple different types of CTAs in a particular email, how should I do it?
Can you simplify it and turn it into multiple emails? The other thing is, if you cannot, then it might be time to rethink your strategy, right? But if you absolutely cannot, decide which of those CTAs can be de-optimized. There's a thing in email copywriting and also basically conversion copywriting, which is called de-optimized copy. And what that means is that there's, so I'll give you an example. The unsubscribe link at the bottom of all our emails is de-optimized copy. We don't want anybody to take that action, but we're legally required to include it, right? So a lot of times it's like right at the bottom of the email, it's in shorter font. When people are being tricky, they won't even highlight the link as blue, and a lot of things, right? So decide what your most important CTA is, put it front and center, like put that CTA into 1/3 of your email, and then take it from there. I mean, that's the best I can do, apart from like sending multiple emails, because if that's just breaking the rule of one. And if you are working with a client that says, oh no, this is the way it's been done. This is how I want to do it. My favorite way of doing this is let's test it out. Let's send the email with the way things are being done already to one segment, and to the other segment we're going to test with like just one call to action and see how it performs. What that does is it levels the playing field. It's not you versus the client or the brand anymore. It's just us testing and figuring out what is working better or best with our audience. I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. Yes. I think a similar question that I've brought up is how would this apply to newsletters and even, product update emails,
Oh,
and such sort of.
absolutely. So product update emails, I'm gonna address first because I write a lot of those for my SaaS clients. What is that one product update that has been the most requested, right? Highlight that. And then most SaaS companies are also creating blog posts or logs of the product updates with more details, right? Link to that. If the product update is important enough that, let's say, it's a full long feature that deserves an email of its own, because you want the adoption to be fast and quick from your power users. But if it's a bunch of like bug releases, things like that, or like making a UX better of like a certain feature, um, highlight the top three and then link to the blog post or the product detail page, update detail page that you have. All
Awesome.
right, there's another question that I see. How would this apply to a newsletter? Oh, I think it was the second part of the same question. So Asma, I don't know if you read my emails from Emailston, right? They always are just about one thing, right? So even with company newsletters, if you are releasing a bunch of content, right? Strategize how you are going to send it on different days. Instead of, if you're releasing like, let's say, 4 blog posts a month, decide on a day of the week where you will be sending the new blog post as it's published to your list, so that they will come to expect, like, okay, Mondays are when, let's say, Mailmodo releases an in-depth blog post. When they send out an email, I know the blog post has been published. If you are doing these growth chats, if you're doing them once a month, then if the first week of the month is when you do it, your audience will know that from the first they'll start receiving emails about it and that they should sign up, right? They'll know that they can't wait on this. So it's also about training your audience on what they see. So if you are a SaaS company that is sending a bunch of things in a single email, come up with a strategy and break them up until you are only sharing one idea or one thing or one message per email.
Great. Yamini has also asked a question, as you were talking about, humanizing the subject line. Her question is, can you give other examples of humanizing the email itself?
Yeah, sure. So, can examples of humanizing the emails? Oh, we're going to talk about this later down the line, Yamini. So, if by the end of the workshop your question is not answered, remind me and I will answer it then. All right. Okay. Let's see. Next up is give your preview text a supporting role. Now, the preview text job is to support the subject line, right? And it definitely shouldn't be the same as your subject line, which is a shockingly common mistake that I see, right? The preview text is often repeating the same information as the subject line, which pretty much defeats the purpose. So the job of the preview text is to provide context or give additional information. When writing the preview text, ask yourself, if the subscriber only read the subject line and the preview text, will they know what the email is about? If the answer is no, you need to write it again. And one of the ways that I get past the subject line and preview text jitters is that I will often do 5 to 7 to 10 versions of a subject line or a preview text. Because it's never, the first one's always the shittiest subject line and preview text we come up with, right? And then you start feeling frustrated, and then you start having fun, and ultimately you will reach a clear subject line and preview text that will work. So don't just limit yourself to one or two versions of a subject line, always give yourself permission to create at least 5 to 6 and then decide which one is going to be the best. Also, when you are writing an email, a lot of times I always recommend to write the subject line and preview text first. But when you are writing the email, sometimes the email copy will go in a different angle. And so that's okay. Just because you've written the subject line and preview text doesn't mean you can't go back and change it. So the relationship between your email copy and subject line and preview text is also very supportive. Like always, it can change if the email angle of the email copy changes. All right, now we're moving on to how to get our emails read. Now, we've done the hard work of fixing our from name, of improving our subject lines. One more thing on about subject lines is test it out. Every brand's audience is different. Just because common practice says that you should include emojis and shorter subject lines, let's say, and those convert better, doesn't mean that your audience will react better to it, right? So always try different tactics and tricks when you are writing subject lines. Don't just assume best practices will work for all brands accordingly. All right, so when it comes to getting our emails read, there are a few things that we need to do, right? One of them is personalizing our email copy. And the easiest, and I'm gonna say something very controversial here, also the laziest way to personalize an email is by including a subscriber's first name, right? But a lot of times people, when they're signing up, they're feeling funny or they want to crack a joke. I have a couple of subscribers with very funny names. One of them is Hot Butter Toast. That person's been on my list for a year. They open my emails, and every time I am sending the first email, first name personalization, including it in my emails, I'm always thinking of that subscriber. Because they probably found it funny when they were doing it last year, but are they still finding it funny after reading that first name so many times? Right? So use it, yes, absolutely, but it's also very lazy. So find a way to write copy that, and this could be an email challenge for you guys, because I took it as a challenge when I was starting out an email, is how to write a conversational or personalized email without using the first name. And it is, once you get the hang of it, it is surprisingly easy. So if you are stumbling and stuck on how to do it, by all means, write it. Write your entire email with the first name personalization, and once you're done, just remove the first name. And then see if the email still feels like it's coming from a person. All right, the other way to personalize an email is by segmenting your subscriber list. So a lot of times we will send our emails to our most engaged list. Other times we want to re-engage our cold subscribers and we will just send to them. So segmenting by activity is super important. You can also segment or personalize by date or interest. A lot of e-commerce brands will send out these birthday emails, right? And no matter how salesy a brand is, it always feels nice to receive a 20% discount or a free gift on your birthday if you buy from them on this day, right? Just small things. You might not buy it, but it's always nice to know that when you receive an email like that. In my experience, personalizing by action or inaction of a subscriber works best. So if you send out an email and you are, let's say you're going through a product launch, right? And you're sending out these emails and you are realizing that there a lot of people are not clicking on the links. Then you know that you need to come up with a new approach to get them to convert, right? But at the same time, for the people who've already converted, you should not be sending those emails to them. So anybody who's taken the action you want them to take will not get future emails, let's say. But anybody who has not taken the action you want them to take continues to get more emails. So personalization, if you follow that principle of sending the right email to the right person at the right time, your email automatically gets personalized without using the first name. Okay, the other thing is when you are writing email copy is hook your subscriber with the opening line. So if the job of the from name, subject line, and preview text is to get the subscriber to open the email, the job of the opening line is to get the subscriber to read the rest of the email, or at the very least, the next sentence, right? For that to happen, your opening line needs to hook your subscribers in. It could be copy that starts with a story, or a conversation starter is a great way to do that, right? So a lot of times I am starting my newsletter emails with like, here's the thing, or quick question, right? So there are a few tips when it comes to writing subject lines. The first one is keep your opening line short, keep it punchy, and I more often than not will give my the opening line of my email its own paragraph. So it makes it easier to read, and in case you can't come up with a good preview text, it can double as a preview text as well. Second thing is keep it interesting, right? Even when I use things like here's the thing, I'm not saying anything profound, right? But the purpose of those three words is that the subconsciously the reader is going to be, oh, I need to read the next thing to know what statement she's going to make, or what is she going to say next, because I'm setting the stage, and that's what the opening line does a lot of times. It's setting the stage for the rest of the emails, and it's hooking the reader in. And finally, when you write an opening line, it also serves at keeping the conversation moving, which is the entire point of sending somebody the email to, and that is to start a conversation. Okay. Make your email copy conversational. We've already covered some of this when I said write to one person. But yeah, and imagine, like, my favorite technique for making my email copy conversational is imagining a good friend that I maybe we all have that friend we send memes to these days, right? So we're, maybe on TikTok or Insta, and we're just like, we're not having these daily conversations with them, but when we see a meme and think of them, immediately hit send, right? So think of that friend and write an email to them, so they're not interested in a long lengthy conversation, but they're definitely interested if you have something interesting or funny to share. So keep that persona in mind when you're writing. Treat it like a conversation. Format your email for speed reading. And this is so important. If all you're sending is blocks of text, nobody's going to read it, probably not even your best friend, right? And so I'm going to say making your email easy to read is also a component of making your email copy conversational. And we're going to talk about how you can format your emails for speed reading a little later down the line, but just this is something to keep in mind. Okay, finally, how to get your emails clicked. Now you've gotten them opened, you've gotten them read. Now your email's job is to get that conversion, right? Get that click. So whatever that conversion metric is, it is definitely probably tied to a click. So whether that's to buy now, or to head over to some web page, or to download something, or sign up for a webinar, that your email needs to get that message across and make your reader feel like, okay, this is something I want to do. I'm going to take a quick look at the chats and see if there's anything that needs my attention. Asman, are there any questions that we should be answering
Yep.
right now?
Yes. I thought we could pick them up at the end, but yeah, since we've taken a question break, Jyotika is asking, is it a good idea to use email as a distribution platform for other events apart from the topic of the email? For example, if I'm sending a newsletter about a certain topic, can I plug in my webinar or lead magnet in that email?
If you are sending a newsletter about a certain topic, does that topic have a CTA of its own? If it doesn't, then yes, plug in your webinar, then that becomes the main CTA. But make sure that the copy of your newsletter, the topic of your newsletter, ties in with your webinar. Otherwise, that just doesn't make sense, right? Or if you have, let's say, I used to have a lead magnet that was all about like e-commerce subject lines, I think. And if I wanted, I could make that the footer banner of my emails, right? But I don't send text. I only send text-based emails. So including that would be a lot of effort, and also like, but that's definitely an idea that I could do, right? But here's the thing: um, if they're already on your list, why are you sending them links to your lead magnet? Webinar makes sense, but if they're already on your list, they've probably downloaded the lead magnet already, right? So unless you're talking about doing this for another brand and then including your lead magnet in it, so cross marketing, newsletter marketing. But yeah, there are a bunch of ways to approach this stuff. When in doubt, always go for simplicity. And this is why, Jyotika, all of your questions are reminding me why the rule of one is so important, because our brain and the way we're used to doing things will always make us come up with scenarios like, oh, but this email and this scenario definitely needs more than one call to action. And I'm going to challenge you at every turn and say, does it really? Can you do it with one call to action or one type of call to action?
Wow, definitely food for thought there, Samak. So moving on to Harshit's question, which
Yeah.
AI tools are you using for your email copies? Also, any
None.
newsletters or
None. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm at a, and I'm being very honest here, Christian. I am at a level in my career where copywriting, I do it as because I enjoy it, right? I am taking on one or two projects at most at a time. So I have the time to write the copy myself, right? But if I was an agency and I was working with 5 to 6 brands at a time, I would absolutely be using AI tools to write that shitty first draft, and then I would edit it. So yeah, I haven't used anything beyond ChatGPT to get past my subject line writing funk. And I will tell it, and a lot of times I end up fighting with ChatGPT. Like, I just gave you 10 versions of the same instructions. Why are you not getting it right? And then also, as silly as it was, I had a disagreement with ChatGPT because every time it would give me these subject line recommendations, it would use title case. And I'm like, why are you using title case? It's just irritating to read. But yeah, I'm a grumpy person generally, especially when I'm like under a deadline. So I ended up fighting with ChatGPT. But that's the only AI tool so far I've used for most of my needs. So far, it is pretty sufficient.
great. Any newsletters or influencers you'd recommend to follow for prompts? If you know, so that Harshit doesn't end up fighting with an AI tool or ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think 𝐿𝐴 does a lot of that stuff in his newsletters. Other than that, I really don't know. But a lot of people in the DTC space, direct to consumer e-commerce space, are using AI. So I think if you Google DTC and AI or Chat GPT prompts, you're gonna find a lot of people.
Great. Kunal is asking, how important is it for non-textual sales collateral to support cold email sequences? Example, infographic, GIFs, video links, etc. So he's referring to how, why is it important, or how important is it to add such collateral in your cold emails?
So cold emails, if they're not text based, are probably going to hit spam. I'm not a cold email expert, so I don't know much about it. But based on the little that I do know, having worked with a lot of early stage startups who are using cold emails to get that first influx of users, um, they link to this stuff. They don't include it in their emails because attachments coming in from somebody you don't know in an email, people don't open it. Every single person in the business world is wise enough to be very, very wary of emails with attachments from unknown people. So I would never recommend um, attaching infographics in or any document in an email. But GIFs, yes, you can include GIFs, right? It's like including an image in an email for sure. Video links, Yeah, yes. If that's part of your strategy, then for sure, because then that your whole email's CTA becomes that click through to watch that video. That's fine.
Great. Harshit has another question. Can you suggest some brands who create beautiful promotional newsletters? Would love to follow them.
Oh, Harshit, I am going through a phase where I am signing up for snack brands. They do some of the most beautiful emails in the industry. So there is GUI. They do nice emails. There is, I'm forgetting the name, but there was like a peanut butter something something. If I find it, I send the links to Asma, and then she will share it with you. But yeah, look for snack brands. They do amazing emails.
Great.
All right.
We have,
I think
yep,
that's the
that's
end
all
of the
the questions.
questions.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so then we come to moving the conversation forward with a call to action. A lot of times, our call to actions are pretty abrupt. They will say things like, buy now or check this out. But my favorite way of almost turning a call to action into a conversational thing or a personalized thing is writing down something that the reader would say to themselves, right? So if you are showcasing, let's say, jewelry in an email, instead of shop now, you could say, I want this, right? And this is like, if you see a beautiful ring or a bracelet, that's what your brain is telling you, right? I want this. I wish I had this. So just mimic that language in a call to action so that it moves the conversation forward. Okay, next up, where are we? Oh, this is my favorite thing. The best way to get people to click on your emails is to gamify your emails, right? So gamification doesn't have to be complicated. I know some brands, Stripo does a lot of gamification of their emails, but their tool is built for that and they can do it. But a lot of us don't have the technical know-how of truly gamifying emails, right? So my way of getting around that or approaching emails and gamifying them is just relying on email copy, right? So you can ask your subscriber which gift you like best and then give them two gifts and they can click on it to tell you. Or which dress would you wear to an office party and then give them 2 to 3 to 4 options and then they can click. And it will take them to a product page that showcases that style of party dresses, right? Similarly, you could also ask them like, hey, do you want free shipping or a free gift on your next order? And that would be a great subject line as well. Um, but yeah, so there are a bunch of ways that you can gamify your emails. Giving subscribers options is one of the best ways because we're kind of hardwired to choose when given a choice. Okay, and this is where formatting also comes into play. So format your emails for speed reading and fast action. If you are if it's a long email, a lot of people are going to lose interest by the time they get to the bottom of it or get to your call to action, right? So make sure that even if it's a long email, it's easy to read. So white space is your friend. Make sure that you are creating a lot of space between sentences and paragraphs, so that it doesn't feel like a block of text to them, right? One sentence paragraphs are always a great way to break the monotony of email copy. And I also like writing one word sentences, which is, a thing of its own. Uh, all If you're writing long sentences, always break them into shorter ones. I tend to aim for like 16 to 18 words, and that's considered one of my longer emails. 12 to 14 words is um, the average that I try and strike with my most of my sentences, right? But if all of my sentences are 12 to 14 words, it's not going to be a good email reading experience. So I vary your sentences between short, mid-length, and long. And ideally, keep your paragraphs between 1 to 3 sentences long. Anything more than that, and it will start looking like a block of text, and it's going to glaze your reader's eyes over. Use bullet points and lists, and please, the easiest way to improve reading experience and support a subscriber's speed reading habits is to increase the font size of your text. At the very least, it should be 16 points. And finally, my final email copywriting advice to you is to write shitty first drafts. The reason being that we often put so much pressure on ourselves when writing emails that we freeze, right? And it's easier to edit a bad version than edit a blank page. So if you are struggling, just give yourself permission to write emails the way you've been writing them, and then follow all of this advice in the editing phase. A lot of times when I am writing emails for my newsletter or a content email for a SaaS company, and I can't find that perfect hook in an opening line, I will give myself permission to write a very bad first draft. And then in the editing version, a lot of times I will just slash out the first third of the email. Because as I write, there will come a point where I will hit that hook and then really get into the meat of the email, right? So everything before that becomes irrelevant and can be slashed. All right, and with that, we come to the end of this workshop. Good luck with your future emails. If there are any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them.
Yep, I think relevant to writing drafts and email copy itself, we have one question from Adisri. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, which is: do shorter emails work better than longer emails, irrespective of the quality?
Um, so there's a common perception out there that shorter emails tend to work better, but longer emails sell better, especially in the course world or the entrepreneurship world. E-commerce, obviously, no, but even in the SaaS world, right? If it's a content email, sometimes, or if it's a message from a founder, yes, longer emails can work. Like it's the same argument as a shorter sales page versus a longer sales page, and Copy Hackers has done extensive testing on this. Longer sales pages have always outperformed their shorter sales pages, right? But when deciding on writing whether your email is going to be a shorter email or a longer email, I'm going to say it depends on who you're sending the email to, how engaged they are with you, what their stage of awareness is about whatever problem you're solving or your product, and then decide which email works, right? And then always um, experiment with different things. So my audience for the emails done right newsletter are busy email marketers, right? And SaaS founders and e-commerce brand owners. They don't have the time. And I am also a person who likes to get straight to the point. So my emails are often less than 200 words. Like a 300 or 350 word email is a long email for me. Like, and I was doing a launch last week of a masterclass that I was teaching. And my longest email was, I think, 550 words. And I felt so nervous sending that email simply because that's not my style, right? But those longer emails did convert because they were sent on the last day and they were cart closing emails, and they ended up getting me sales. So they work. It also depends on your audience. It depends on the event. So take all of that into account.
Awesome. I think we'll just hang around for another minute or two if there are any other questions in the chat. Now will be a good time. We're almost at the end of the session, and this has been a power packed hour with a lot of insights, a lot of things to keep in mind, from how to get your emails opened, read, clicked, right down to generating sales. Anybody else have any other questions with all of these topics? Okay, so we have one more, which is: how do I achieve personalization when I'm sending a standard email to a lot of people?
You speak to one person. That's the biggest thing. You don't if you can't segment by the level of engagement or action or inaction, or where all the different ways that we can segment an email, then just write email to one person, and that's all the personalization you need.
So, Samar, I
As
think
long as sorry, I'm cutting you off, but as long as the email feels like it's starting a conversation, being sent from one person, and is written with a focus of like the person on the other end, it's a personalized email.
right. I'm going to follow that up with another question, which is, of course, we can segment based on activity, which is how many emails has the person opened on, clicked on, etc. But what are the other sort of factors or parameters that you can track to measure engagement, measure interest, measure what kind of products does this person like or doesn't like, what kind of content do they like or don't like, things like that. Where do you get more in-depth information to personalize your emails?
Oh, that's all based on the metrics, isn't it? So let's say a segment of your audience is clicking on shirts, but not shoes. So they're more interested in shirts. And this is something that when I was working with Pinterest, we had a lot of discussions over, because things like kitchen renovations were super popular as boards in Pinterest, right? But once a kitchen renovation is complete, that person no longer cares about that stuff. So you also have to keep that in mind. Like, are your products seasonal? Like, once somebody buys it or uses it, when do they next need it? Which is why subscription programs are so popular in snack brands and like condiments brands. Like, you will get a subscribe and save offer, right? Once somebody buys something at full price or like a single pack, and it's a snack that we know, based on the data that we've received from our metrics and things like that, that a single pack is like a person runs through a single pack in a week or 2 weeks, then we know that that's when we send them that offer. Like, they've just finished their snack or about to finish their snack. That's the perfect time to send them an email with the offer of like, hey, how about you receive the snack or health supplement every 30 days? And so you never run out, and you're never, it's one thing off your to-do list.
Great. That's a good insight, Samar. And there's another follow-up question on that, which is, what do you think about questionnaires, etc., in an email? I think when you're sending
It's
out.
a link, right? It's a link that you're sending people to. That's fine. Like, we always ask surveys, right? We ask our subscribers to take surveys. So that's cool. As long as it's a link, that's fine.
Got it. Okay, lovely. Yamni is asking, if emails are salesy, let's say to sign up for a referral platform or invite to an event, do we talk about what is in it for them and to think about the subscriber first, or do we talk about what we do first and then the benefits later?
Always the benefits first. Why should the subscriber care? When they open that email, they're thinking, why am I reading this email? What's in it for me? Why should I sign up for that? So you are always going to want to focus the email on them. And that should be your entire marketing, by the way. The benefits are for the people you're hosting that webinar for.
Got it. Awesome. Jyotika's asking, how would I determine which is the reason for a successful email? Is it the copy or the topic? That's a tricky one.
So if you're a copywriter, your copy is going to be the same quality every single time, right? So if an email does really, really well and you haven't changed your copywriting angle or technique or anything like that, then it's the topic. And this is something that came up really often with a retainer client of mine, and we used to figure out what were the hot topics in their industry based on the engagement on the content emails that we were sending. Like, some of those emails were like people just didn't care, right? And then others would be like, we would get a 60% open rate because it was a hot topic in that industry at the time. So
Nice.
being capitalizing on what's happening in the industry or the topic or a relevant topic is also part of being a good copywriter.
Nice. Awesome. Great. So, last question, because we're up for time, from Kanika, which is, what should be the difference of approach when you're trying to sell a product or trying to sell a service via sending emails?
Different approach when you are trying to sell a product or trying to sell a service. There really isn't much, because you are focusing on the person you're sending the email to. So the person you are serving in the if it's the products, then what problem are the products solving? If it's your service, what problem is your service solving? Who is it solving for? So if here's why it's no different, it's because the person you are emailing to remains the same. That part remains consistent. And so everything becomes just so easy when you make sure that you are focusing on the person or subscriber that you are sending the email out to. What's in it for them? Why should they care?
And with that, that's a wrap. Awesome session, Samag. Thank you so much. This has been a very, very insightful session, and I think kudos to the audience as well with all of the insightful questions, and in different
Absolutely.
kinds. You coming from experience, coming from very practical spaces. So awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody that's joined in. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, and we hope to see you again on yet another Code Chat. Bye bye.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.